Welcome to Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes. This is a talk video, and this ought to be a pretty quick one. We're looking at Conquest 15, the next three for Luthen Rael, and in these, we'll usually look at datacrons if there's a new datacron set. There wasn't this time. Data disks, but they doesn't look like we have a new set of data disks, and we will be breaking down the feats and squads, and this is without having specific knowledge on how those nodes are going to function. So this may change once we go live with the event. And I think what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to record my first 5 days of Conquest and put up some sort of video each day, maybe. Depends on the amount of work that's going to take. I'm hoping we can find a way to do it quickly and minimally. With data disks, it'll be quick. I don't want to talk too much about these because it looks to be that we are going to be using the same disks from Conquest 14. So check out that card in the corner, whichever corner it appears in, where that video I break down these combos and what I was thinking a little bit more. Right now, all I want to say is the discs that I used most throughout Conquest 14 was Zealous Ambition, which I think will be very important for this conquest. Vitality I would grab because it helps boost Zealous Ambition, so does Power a little bit, that's why we have that combo. But also Stacking Offense was one I found to be very valuable during the last conquest, and I'll be looking to grab this time. And then from there, I usually was grabbing best available. Leader's Resolve I will always like to have. Voluntary Vanguard was fine, but I will be trying to get the Booming Voice disc from the Feats pretty early because that should be very powerful with the particular sets of squads that we are using. Now, before we start breaking down these squads and feats, I want you to keep in mind my general approach towards Conquest as we look at this information. I want to be as efficient as possible. That means I want to get through each sector in as few attempts as possible, and I want to be trying to double up on as many feats as possible with each attempt. Now, with this Conquest, that is going to be more difficult because the big change here is there are fewer feats with buffs or debuffs on each sector, and each sector has more win and defeat feats with a single squad or faction or character, which means we can't be working on as many feats in each attempt. Next item is we are always trying to minimize cheeses. I only do them if necessary because generally you're not either going to beat the node or make progress in the sector, so that to me is a waste of energy unless it is absolutely required. And with the last conquest, it was absolutely required for like the stab feat. In this case, I don't know that it is going to be required. It might turn out to be the case, but if you've worked on your characters to a certain level, you should be able to accomplish these. I've red created every single time, and I've done it very often with Gear 11 characters. It's one of the reasons why I push building out all your characters to that level. The stars usually we can find solutions to. But this is also why I emphasize going after the new content. Even if you're slowly farming them, get them built up so that they are usable and accessible characters, because so much of the game is tailored towards new releases. With each sector, if I don't hit 3 stars on a node, I'm just moving on. What I'm trying to do is get to the discs as quickly as possible, because as your disc quality improves, working on every feat gets easier. So getting to as many high quality discs as possible, as quickly as possible, is going to just make the entire thing easier. So I know some players like to go after datacrons early. I don't. I will save datacrons for Saturday, Sunday, and whatever I get is whatever I get. Now, this being the second conquest with a datacron set is not as big of a deal. Also, with these squads, I'm not showing every possible variation that you can use with each sector or with each node or with each boss node. This is just the general squad that I'm going to be utilizing, and then we will swap things out as needed. And I will talk about different variations as we go through this. The big thing here is CG has made things surprisingly easy, and they did that through lowering the counts on all of the feats. But the trade-off is that even though the counts are lower, there are far more win and defeat feats than we've had in the past, which may mean it actually takes a good amount of attempts to actually complete these, because we cannot be working on multiple things at once. And with the global feats, we'll tackle this first. We have win 15 with Krex, defeat 35 with Jedi Knight Cal Kestis, win 15 with Master Qui-Gon and Padawan Obi-Wan, and there you see the benefits of just working on new content quickly. Same with the next one, 15 battles with 4 Gungans. And then defeat 35 with Dark Trooper Moff Gideon, and that fits about the pattern where the Conquest character, Conquest released from 2 Conquests ago, tends to start showing up with these global feats, where if you're not working on new content, you are limiting your ability to perform well. And there's a snowball effect here. If you are working on it as it comes out, you are making it easier to get the Conquest character, or even if it's gold crate, and that makes it easier to get the next one, and the next one, and the next one. Everything starts snowballing. And if you're not working on Gungans already, you really need to be. They are critical to the next phase of this game. It's going to be this Conquest, but I'm also fairly certain that it'll be the next Conquest that we're also seeing Gungans, but it's probably going to add Jar Jar to it. Global feats, first one is win 15 with Captain Rex, and this one's basically going to happen on its own because it does double up nicely with some sector feats, like Sector 2, defeat 35 enemies with Rebel fighters. And I've got him slotted into this Mon Mothma squad, but if you got Leia, use Leia. You will need Leia later, but she'll have the time to recover her stamina. Also, Sector 5, you got to use Phoenix, so if you're not done with Krex at that point, you can just do it then. Next up, we have Jedi Knight Cal Kestis. I've got him slotted into a JML squad, but there's so many variations that Cal Kestis is going to work under. Bastille Lead is going to work great if you happen to have unlocked him, because he is fairly accessible to the early game these days, although I recognize that that's fairly unlikely. Next, we got win 15 with Padawan Obi-Wan and Master Qui-Gon. Now, I did get Queen Amidala during the last Conquest, so this should be easier for me since she's going to make them a good deal more survivable, but that can also be paired with some Vitality data disks, which is going to help too. But if you don't have Queen Amidala, use JML, and JML will be able to take most of those hits, bring them in for assists, and you can bring in Watt to force a taunt onto JML, and then I would also bring in Jolie for the revives. And then you can see we got these abbreviations: Sector 1 for evasion up, Sector 3 accuracy up. And Padawan Obi-Wan and Luminara both do evasion up, and accuracy up is Cadme, Padawan, and Master Qui-Gon. Although it may have been that buff, I can't recall specifically. Cadme, it may have been Grand Arena with the Omicron, that she may not apply to everyone, but with already Padawan and Master Qui-Gon offering it, it's going to be fine. Gungans also provide a lot of accuracy up, so that they can be used to make some quick progress on Sector 3, but with their condition, it's just win 15 battles with 4 Gungans on the squad, which means you can have a different lead like SLKR. I don't have SLKR, but if you have SLKR, that's going to be ideal towards winning these battles, and they'll just carry them, and you can do it with some very weak Gungans. My Gungans I've invested a lot more in, and I could technically win some of these battles, especially with Zealous Ambition, with these 4 guys, but if I'm only using 4, then I'm not going to 3-star a node, so I may save them for a Datacron node, because they do work much better with only Gungans. Otherwise, the shield generator is not going to appear, and they are terrible as soon as the shield generator is gone. And then we got Dark Trooper Moff Gideon, and I had the Dark Trooper Moff Gideon Datacron, so I have a team all at Relic. So that one's going to be easier for me, and because he's a fairly recent Conquest character, hopefully most of you were able to grab him recently through the last set of Conquests, but this is one of those things that is going to gate the event a little bit, make it a little bit harder if you don't have access to him, but hopefully you will have him soon and can use him for the next 2 months, if not this month. Sector 1, we've got defeat 35 with light side Mandos, evasion up 50 times, 35 enemies with Ewoks, and 10 battles with Resistance. The boss nodes, those check back to those videos I'll be putting out next week for how I'll be approaching them. Those can be highly dependent on mechanics that CG puts in, and I don't go too deep into data mines with my approach. Bit Dynasty might, and check out his videos for definitely some good solutions, but I like to just go through this process to show what my roster and how I'm going to be approaching these. And with Sector 1, we start to see the hidden difficulties within this set of feats, because it may not seem like a big deal with these counters counts being so low, but none of these squads do evasion up, which means we have to bring in those squads I was showing from global feats into Sector 1 in order to accomplish evasion up. Now that's fine because we're making progress on global feats, but there's only like 24 nodes, and in order for us to do all these battles, it means that it is very unlikely that we are going to accomplish all the Sector 1 feats in a first run through, which I was doing during Conquest 14. My initial playthrough, all 100% feats done by the time I hit the end of the sector. Not going to be possible this time. We got defeat 35 with Mandos, 35 with Ewoks, 15 with the Resistance squad. Now you could try and maybe combine Ewoks and Mandos, but that's just going to be so inefficient that that doesn't matter. Now I do have Bo-Katan Mandalore. If you don't, not a big deal. Use the other Bo lead, use Bam lead, mix in other characters, whatever you got. Just make sure you have those squads there and go after some of these characters that don't have Kairos. If you, or have a lower amount of Kairos, because you can do like Bam. Well, Bam's Kairos, most of them have Kairos except for Sabine, I guess. But bring them to whatever level you can, make some progress. You probably will be able to do a good amount of these in Sector 1. Ewoks, same deal. I've got Nisa, but other Ewok squads are going to be strong up against the right team, especially if you get Zealous Ambition. That's going to pair nicely with Ewoks. They have a number of support and healer characters. And then Resistance. Finzori is just going to crush these sectors, but you can also use a JTR squad to run through that. I do have some tentative boss nodes like Sector 1, final boss, Thrawn. I have it with Lord Vader right now, but sometimes the mechanics for these are going to be weird where maybe a Thrawn lead is going to be preferable. We'll see that during the event. But Lord Vader is also brand new for me. I got him a month or two ago. Like I've been dealing with all these types of feats with less GLs than most players. I just try to get everything else very quickly. In Sector 2 we have a similar theme. We have 2 defeat 35 enemy feats with Rebel Fighters and Imperial Troopers, win 10 battles with Night Sisters, and potency down, inflict it 50 times. Now this sector is going to be significantly easier if you do have Leia, because Leia does provide potency down, which means we can double up on feats. We can add in Captain Rex to the squad and make this a little bit faster, because Night Sisters and Saw Gerrera, I have indicated here, do not provide any potency down. Saw's for the final boss. But with Imperial Troopers, I will double up with Dark Trooper Moff Gideon with those defeat 35 enemy feats, so we can get some global wins here. And then what you can do with potency down is if you did use a squad with Padawan, Obi-Wan, and Master Qui-Gon with JML lead, you could throw in Yoda in here along with Jolee, and that squad would be able to get potency down because Yoda does apply that on his basic. So this global squad would be an effective Sector 2 squad. Sector 3, first one is defeat 35 enemies with any Han. It's probably going to be easiest with Raid Han since he's the best attacker, but with Zealous Ambition, you might be able to boost some of the other Hans to do enough damage. Or if you have a good young Han, he'll be able to do it. I don't. Now with win 10 battles with a full squad of Separatist units, there's some flexibility there depending on what you have best on your roster. Gain accuracy up 50 times and gain We Adapt or Die 50 times. Now with the Separatists, I'm going to be using Admiral Trench because I have him, but you can be using Geos, you can be using Newt Lead, you can be using General Grievous, but I like Trench because it's a more survivable. Like Grievous is working off of characters dying. Newt Lead is just a bit more dated, so he's not going, you have a higher risk of losing people. Trench, I'm not really going to be worrying about losing anybody, but I know not everybody's going to have that as an option. Now, unfortunately with We Adapt or Die, that is Iden specific, so you have only one option. These are the characters that I'll be using with it, but it's got a lot of flexibility. I just like to have a pre-taunt. You can swap in characters. Just remember though, they can't have leadership abilities because sometimes, rarely, but sometimes I do see it in Grand Arena where somebody puts in a character that doesn't work with Iden. And then we got a Seer Junda with Malicos squad here for the accuracy up. And I believe Kel Kestis is who's bringing that the most. But Seer Junda also provides it as well. Actually, between the two of them, you'll be able to make some good progress. If you don't have Malicos, don't worry about it. He's better in Grand Arena anyway, even though he'll be fine here. But one thing to keep in mind is that feat will double up with the Queen Amidala or the Padawan, Obi-Wan, Master Qui-Gon squad, because all three of them do provide accuracy up. And I'll be using the CLS squad most likely, just easy and straightforward. You can see I have a Sector 5 variant here for evasion down. And then we have Sector 3 mini boss, Galactic Republic Jedi. Going to be using the squad. Just got to remember, Kat is not a Jedi character, so she can't be part of this. But I got plenty of good Jedi. Just whatever you have that's best available. Although Ki-Adi-Mundi would be a strong addition because he boosts up the entire squad with his unique. Sector 4, we have 2 win 10 feats, one with stab surviving, the other with rebel units. That one's going to be easy. Then we've got shield up which is just a Gungan feat, and then accuracy down 50 times. And again, we don't have good overlap here, which just means more attempts. So you got stab wins, I've got Grievous. You can see I have a fully farmed one. Haven't taken mine up to relics yet. With accuracy down, we got Inquisitors 7th and 8th both inflict accuracy down, so that'll help things a little bit. Unfortunately, there are no rebels that apply accuracy down, but we can make some progress on global feats because Scout Trooper does inflict accuracy down, so that is an opportunity to use some global teams if you have not finished the feat yet. And then shield up, Phalanx is the one that provides shield up for the majority of us, but if you happen to have Jar Jar, it's going to be a lot easier because he can also apply shield up. And if you don't have any of those other squads available to you or those characters available to you, Cad Bane is going to be your last remaining best option because everything else you probably don't have. Although I should say Padawan Obi-Wan also does do accuracy down, so that's just another one of these feats where you can see now a lot of these debuffs that have been asked for, some of these buffs that have been asked for, relate back to Padawan Obi-Wan and Master Qui-Gon, which just keeps emphasizing how if you work on these characters, you are going to make all of these feats a lot easier. With Sector 5, we've got a similar structure to Sectors 1 and 2. We have 2 defeat 35 enemy feats, one with Phoenix characters, the other with Bounty Hunter units. And then we have Evasion down, inflict that 50 times, and win 10 battles with Master Qui-Gon and Qui-Gon surviving. Now with Bounty Hunters, we can make variants here that inflict the evasion down. Now I've got a Jabba lead here. Now not all of these characters are Hutt Cartel, and that's because Zam's not Hutt, but she does have an AoE evasion down, which is going to be very valuable. I'm just doing it under Jabba lead because it's going to be more beneficial, but it's not going to be fully functional. Curzanton also applies evasion down, but it's single target. It's not going to be as effective towards working on that feat. But you can also be using other bounty hunter leads, Bosk, Django, whichever is going to work best for your roster. Just Zam and Curzanton are going to be the ones that are going to help you out the most. But in general, we're going to be looking to double up with global feats in this sector. We mentioned it earlier, but we've got Phoenix, Captain Rex is here. You'll probably be done with the Captain Rex feat by this point, but if you're not, you'll get it done now. And then we can make Jedi squads that are going to be very effective with evasion down. I have a version here with Cal Kestis, but we can also make a version that's going to accomplish the Qui-Gon feat as well. We can utilize a JML squad like this, which will get progress towards the Jedi Knight Cal Kestis defeat. We're also doing win 10 battles with Qui-Gon and Master Qui-Gon, and Obi-Wan here is providing the evasion down. The other option, if you have it, is a Queen Amidala squad where we swap in a Qui-Gon for this sector. And the benefit to that is Padawan Obi-Wan also does provide evasion down. You can see basically every single sector buff or debuff feat again is Padawan Obi-Wan. But for some other options at evasion down, we talked about these in Sector 3. They also work in Sector 5. You got unaligned force users where Cal Kestis is going to apply a lot of evasion down, and then Chupio is going to be providing evasion down with the rebels. Some squads that I don't have pictured here but could be utilized is Bastila Fallen is also very good for that debuff. Just the Sith don't double up here on any other feats, so I don't have a preset for them. Holdo's AoE also does it, but I'm not a Rey player, so that's not a character that I usually utilize, and there's plenty of other options, so it's not going to be one for me. But if you're a Rey player, that's going to be another effective way to both get through some nodes, but also work on that feat fairly quickly. And that wraps up this video. This is the second time we've done one of these. These are still a work in progress, so trying to figure out how we want to cover Conquest. I just know that I do. So during the next week again, we are going to experiment with a new video series of how I am tackling each of these sectors for the first 5 days until I get through Sector 5, just showing you which squads I'm using and the progress that I'm making. It's not going to be every single node, but it'll be a decent enough overview. So look forward to those. Thank you for watching. Be excellent to each other, everybody. This is still Plays Galaxy of Heroes.